Hello and welcome to the Soccer AM podcast on YouTube. I am Smithy and alongside me is podcast producer Peter. In this episode, we both sit down for a good hour with Ryan Mason, had a brilliant chat with him and we go through his entire career. That is coming up very shortly. Before we do, Pete, have you got any podmin? Important podcast administration details. That's a very long sentence, isn't it? To tell the viewers / listeners.
Podmin.
Yeah,
Podmin coming out my ears. What you need to do is, if you want to hear these episodes a week early, so a week earlier than they'll be on YouTube, you need to go over to iTunes and subscribe to us over there. So just go to iTunes, type in Soccer AM, and it will come up. Click subscribe.
Nice
you get
easy.
The episodes 1 week before they go on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, subscribe, review, relate, archive, word of mouth, do everything in a positive manner in your life going forward. Is there anything else you want to say?
You're just saying words out of a dictionary.
I'm just saying words.
Don't mean
relate
anything.
Made no sense whatsoever. But we do hope you enjoy the podcast. Here is Ryan Mason. Right, I'm sat around a table with, of course, Pete, but also the smartest dressed man in the Soccer M podcast history, Ryan Mason. Ryan, how are you?
Yeah, feeling good in my suit. It's a bit out of my comfort zone, but no, it's all good, yeah.
And just to clarify, you were on Sky Sports News earlier. You haven't come wearing a suit just
No, this isn't my day-to-day attire. This
Fine.
is purely on a work basis.
I'm going to start wearing a tie for the podcast, I think.
I'd love to see you in a tie. I've never seen you in a tie. As we do with all our guests, we will talk through your career. Before we do, obviously people are well aware you are officially retired as a professional footballer, following on from the nasty head injury against Chelsea 14 months ago, something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, 14 months now.
So just to clarify that was a decision that was taken out of your hands, wasn't it? The doctors made that decision for you.
Yeah, I mean, recently we had a scan a couple of months ago and some issues come up that hadn't come up before, and the decision was made for me. I mean, ultimately I could have chose to carry on, but I'd be putting my health at risk every single time I stepped on the football pitch, so that's not something I was willing to do.
Were you sort of expecting that? Obviously, we all saw the incident because of how the severity of it, or the fact that it came so late. Because you were in rehab with Hull, weren't you? Sort of.
Yeah.
So was it a bit of a shock when that news came?
Yeah, it was a big shock because obviously I'd got myself into a position where I was ready to play. I'd been ready for 6 months. I mean, I had a scan 7-8 months ago now where if that scan was clear, then I'd have probably gone straight back into the team because physically I was so there. And obviously the guys said that we're going to have to wait another 6 months and see the healing process. And during that 6 months, I had to keep myself fit, and I was doing everything, if not more, than some of the players. And I was ready again. But obviously, like I say, the scan showed up some issues that hadn't before, and it was pretty straightforward in the end.
Okay, right, let's get on to the career. We do this with all our guests. Pete loves this. Guests naming all the clubs they've been at. So can you remind us of all the clubs that you played for?
I think I can. I had a loan at Yeovil. I had 2 spells at Doncaster. Then I had a spell at Millwall. I went out to Lorient.
Yeah.
Come back and went to Swindon. I think that was it.
Yeah.
Am I missing one?
Well, and the 2 clubs, of course.
I mean, sorry. The obvious Tottenham and the obvious Hull.
Yeah, I'm thinking you missed the 2 clubs.
Just thinking of my loan spells here.
See, loan spells are important to players, Pete. That's what I'm saying to you. Spurs, you spent your entire youth career at Spurs. I'm a huge Spurs fan. Got so much to ask you about Tottenham. I'll try not to make this the Tottenham podcast for everyone else's sake. But that Spurs youth team, that was a good... Kane was in that, Townsend, Adam Smith, yourself.
We had a great youth team. I think we have a photo where we've got, I think me, Andros, Harry...
Yeah.
Even Stephen Corker went on to play for England. There's 4 players that went on to play for England. We've got Adam Smith as well.
Tom Carroll was in that
Tommy
as well?
Carroll was in that. Alex Pritchard wasn't. He was younger, but he sometimes played with us. I mean, we had John Bostock, who's playing
of course,
proper football. John Abika, who's in the league. Nathan Byrne, who's playing league football. Callum Butcher. I think our whole youth team went on to have a career in the game, and that's just unheard of, really.
And what was it like? What was youth team football like? Because a lot of players talk about it, really fond memories for players.
Best time of my life.
Was it?
It was wonderful. We won, I think in the 2 years, my first and second year scholar, I think we won 7 or 8 European competitions. So we won our national league. We just used to go out there and have fun. It was just, we had such a great team with great players that every game we went out and played, it was just so enjoyable because we'd end up scoring 4 or 5 each game.
And you still mates with all those players now? You still keep in touch with them?
Yeah, a lot of them. I mean, more so probably Adam Smith, because my missus and his missus are best mates. Andros, I see him a lot.
Yeah.
Harry, obviously, he's doing his thing. He's got to be so screwed on and dedicated. But when we can go out for food, we do. So a lot of them I stay in contact with, yeah.
Love it. Love that. That's first. What a team, mate. 5 loan spells, Ryan. What was sort of going through your mind when you get loaned out to that many clubs? Are you sort of half worried that you're not going to break into the team, or does that help your development, that the fact that you're going somewhere and getting regular first-team football?
I think it's important for young players to kind of carve out a career if it doesn't work out at your parent club. Obviously, my route was a lot different to everyone else's. I think usually you'd probably go League One, Championship, Prem, but mine, it sort of went League One, Championship. I went abroad, come back, and had to go back to League One again. So it was difficult. I think sometimes you do doubt whether you're going to actually play for the first team, but I was always confident in my ability, and I felt like I deserved to play in that first team. So, I mean, from my point of view, I'd have waited till I was 26 to play at Tottenham. It didn't matter about age or anything. So, I mean, the loan spells were solely on getting games, getting that experience, and developing into a man, really.
Is it difficult going from, because I suppose us outside of the game, you just see you playing for a club, but you're moving to Doncaster, to Yeovil. These are places far and away. Is that quite hard moving, uplifting your family, suddenly finding out one day that you're going to be effectively living at another part of the country?
Yeah, it's very difficult, because I think I went on my first loan to Yeovil 150 miles away at the age of 18.
Yeah.
And at that point, I didn't have like a missus, I didn't have anything to move with me. So you go and you're forced to grow up, really. You're living in a flat. I'd never cooked anything in my life. So
we've had this chat.
I give myself food poisoning a couple of times, and all that. But that's just part of growing up and becoming a man. I think it is difficult, because you go from a club like Tottenham, who have a philosophy and a way of playing that I'd played from the age of 7 and played this attacking brand of football, to go into teams that are fighting for their lives in relegation battles, and you have to adapt your game in many ways. I think my loan spells, in terms of time on the pitch and the way I was playing, it probably wasn't that great, but it definitely helped me further down the line in terms of the player I become.
Did you find, coming from a Premier League team down to a League One or League Two team, especially a team like Spurs, that more was expected of you, or that the players treated you differently, either positively or negatively?
I think the more was expected, yeah, definitely, because I when I went to Yeovil, I was an attacking centre mid, so a lot was based on me making things happen, to be honest. I think sometimes I've been involved in the game a long time, and I see Premier League players going out on loan thinking they're a Premier League player and not thinking they have to do the dirty work, and that's when there can be trouble. Players that are fighting for their lives, have mortgages to pay, stuff like this, and they see the prima donna coming down from the Premier League who thinks he's the next best thing. I think that's when there is problems, and I think as a loan player, you either get stuck in and work for the team and make it happen for the club, or you can kind of get lost. And I think we do see a lot of players that have potential but get lost because they're not willing to do that side of the game.
Yeah, you've got to muck in and realise that football is everything, not just Premier League.
It's a different way of the game. I mean, the Premier League is just it's a different league in all aspects, technically, tactically, all of it. And don't get me wrong, the Championship, League One, League Two, they're very difficult leagues also, but in different ways. And if you've not got the ability to adapt and play those ways, then you'll get swallowed up and you won't have a career, basically.
You mentioned loan spell at Yeovil there. I saw you scoring against Exeter City, because I'm an Exeter fan.
It's a weldy, wasn't it? Yeah, absolute weldy.
I think we were watching the goals yesterday.
If anyone's not seen it, it's like a 30-yard lob after Paul Jones, the Exeter keeper, kind of fluffs the clearance.
Basically, Pete is a massive Exeter fan, so he always crowbars an Exeter story into every podcast.
But our first guest was Clinton Morrison as well. For Exeter.
I scored 2-2 against Exeter as well.
Did you score at Huish Park as well?
We beat you 2-1 it was. Little tap in.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, when I went Yeovil, I was a number 10. I was an attacking centre mid, and gradually, as my career went on, you just get deeper and deeper. I still class myself as a number 10, even when I was playing defensive centre mid for Spurs. I always thought that the best part of my game was getting forward, scoring goals. But like I say, sometimes you have to change your game and adapt it for the team, and that was the case.
How soon into your time at Yeovil was that goal against Exeter?
It was my
your first
third game, because we played Colchester played Tranmere in the first, scored a free kick against Colchester in the second. And then the third game we drew against you boys 1-1 at your gaff.
Was there any point where you were thinking, so that's 2 goals in 3 games, you're thinking, this is going to be
Number 9, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think I scored 4 in my first 12 games, and I think I assisted like 5. And I was an 18-year-old lad, and I was thinking, I'm going to go to the Championship in January. It didn't materialise. I mean, I chose to stay there the whole season and get a full season under my belt. I think I ended up with 6 goals in 29 or 39 appearances, and as an 18-year-old, that's pretty good because most of my other 18-year-olds were still playing youth team football. So it definitely toughened me up and made me realise what the real world was about, really.
Yeah. You mentioned Yeovil fondly there. Was that the club of all the loan spells you had that you look back with the fondest memories?
Yeah, probably, because like I say, I was 18 and I was probably like 60 kilograms soaking wet. I was so fragile, I was skinny, but the manager and assistant, I mean, Terry Skiverton and Nathan Jones, they literally see my potential and they just give me the exposure to just go and play. And we was in a relegation battle at the time, and I think a lot of managers would probably be like, no, let's go for someone more physical and hit the corners, but they gave me so much confidence and freedom to go out there and play. It was it definitely kick-started my career.
That must be a huge thing as an 18-year-old, because confidence is what I'm trying to say, get the word out. Because they say that talent only gets you so far, especially as an 18-year-old going down the leagues. Self-belief and man management from coaches must be huge for a player coming through.
Yeah, I think self-belief is a massive one because I was an 18-year-old going into a change room full of like 30-year-olds, like men, and I was so far away from being a man. In a change room
environment as well, where they're probably
it's completely
critiquing
different.
what you're wearing,
the
what
banter,
music you listen to.
everything, my skinny arms, I just got it every day. But I think when they see me on the training pitch, I put the work in, I grafted, I'd go in the gym afterwards, I'd work hard, and I've never been a selfish player. I've always worked for the team, and I think they appreciate that, and they want to help you if they can see someone coming in doing that.
You said you gave yourself food poisoning and obviously away from home pretty much for the first time on your own. I think it was Jolien Lescott when he was on Soccer AM before Christmas was saying that he's doing work with Man City where he is assigned to players that go out on loan to lower league clubs to kind of help them bed in, because you get so looked after, don't you, at that high level at youth academy. Was there anything like that for you? Because, I mean, this was going back 10 years now, which isn't that long ago, but was that something that was done where they assign you someone to help look after you?
No, there was nothing like that. Nothing like that at all. I think back then you were just expected to go and get on with it, and if you couldn't grow up and mature quick enough, then you wouldn't make it. I do think sometimes the young lads are pampered a little bit too much. It definitely helped me. I mean, I'm a great cook now, by the way. I'm brilliant.
What do you get food poisoning off?
It's chicken.
Always chicken.
Undercooked chicken.
Always chicken. Or mussels. Don't eat a closed mussel. Do you like mussels?
No, I'm not that much.
I don't think an 18-year-old living away from
trying to get mussels. Yeah.
You can get them
literally a chicken breast. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think I can understand where they're coming from and helping the players settle in and that. But ultimately, I think if you're not strong enough mentally, then you won't survive in the game.
Yeah.
It's similar to the Clinton Morrison story when he was on. He didn't know how to cook a pizza. He said he didn't know how to cook a pizza at a young age, and it was obviously the players hammered him for it. But that is.
He thought you put it in with the a little plastic thing underneath.
Oh,
you put that in the oven, and then he didn't know which one the oven was either.
I wasn't that bad. I just undercooked it by about 6 or 7 minutes.
At least you didn't have to put the oven on.
Yeah. And you knew where the oven was. He's not working in the microwave. Lorient in France. How did that come about? And what was that like?
It was really strange because that season I started off the year with AVB, and I was on the bench quite a bit. Yeah. I think I made 4 appearances. I got a little bit of a knee injury. I was out for 2 weeks, and then I think Tom Carroll kind of come in and took my place as the guy on the bench and around it, and I just wanted to go and play. And I had a lot of championship offers, but AVB and Tim Sherwood said that if I could go and get experience in the French League One, then it would hold me in good stead for the next season coming back. So I'll be honest, I didn't want to go.
Didn't you?
No. I had plenty of offers in the Championship that were so appealing to me. But when the first team manager of Tottenham is saying that it'd be more valuable getting them experience, and I thought I'd take the risk and go out there.
That's interesting, isn't it? So he thinks there was more value in you going abroad than playing in the Championship in the same country. That's interesting.
Yeah, that was his view on it. And
is that just because of different style of football and different cultures and things like that?
I think it was just levels. I think the French league, you've got Champions League teams, you've got European teams in that league, and obviously the Championship it's a great league. It's really good. The level is higher, but I think he viewed it as a step below the French League One.
What was it like when you went there?
Oh, it was difficult. It was a horrible experience. I went there, I was training well, I was doing well, but the gaffer basically turned around from day one and said he didn't need me, he knew nothing about the transfer. So
The manager said that?
yeah, it was a bit bizarre. So obviously
confidence on day one.
I carried on, and then I spoke to him again a month later. I played like 3 or 4 reserve games. That was it. And I said, like, what's going on? He said, look, you can go back to Spurs if you want. Like, I've got no problem. So if I went back to Spurs, then I wouldn't have been able to play. So I just said, no, I'm going to stick it out. I'm going to train here and see if I can get in the team. It didn't happen, but it definitely made me stronger mentally. I mean, I was out in France for 3.5 months on my own, training, doing nothing day to day, and yeah, it just made me appreciate the game.
That was my next question, actually, going to ask, would you encourage, because a lot of young English players, because the Premier League is seen to be the best league in the world, don't tend to go abroad. I remember it was big when Ashley Cole, towards the end of his career, went to Rome, and there was a big sort of discussion within the media of should more players do that. Do you think more younger players should do that for their development? Your experience obviously wasn't the best, but it obviously helped you grow in a lot of other ways.
Yeah, I think you've got to pick your places wisely, because I mean, like I say, physically I was so behind everyone else at a young age that there was a stage, I think when I was 21, where we were talking about going out to Holland and playing in their top division, because that style of football probably would suit you. It's just that exposure, is the value of it. I mean, the Championship is such the money in it, the teams in it, the fan base, everything, that if you go and succeed in the Championship as a young lad from loan, you're likely going to get a Premiership offer.
Really?
Whereas if you go and succeed in Holland on loan, you're going to have to come back and probably still go to the Championship to prove yourself. So I just think the route into the Premier League is probably the Championship, excelling there, getting promoted or having a good season there. But in terms of carving out your career, then the most important thing is just playing games.
Championship, I always find, is the toughest league to call results. If you've got a sweepstake, Championship, every team beats everyone, don't they? It's a crazy league.
It's so yo-yo as well, isn't it, with the teams going up and down from the Prem and the Championship.
Reading, we were pitch side doing stuff for Sky on the playoff final. Reading were 1 kick away from being a Premier League team. They're now 5 or 6 points off the relegation places. Sunderland at the bottom. It's crazy.
Yeah. You see so many teams get relegated and go and get relegated again because the league is so difficult, isn't it?
I think that season when Yeovil and Exeter were in League One, was that the season when it was like Charlton, Sheffield Wednesday, Norwich?
Well, there was
Leeds,
Southampton, Leeds, Charlton. Yeah, there was some big boys in there.
Yeah, when you look back at like Premier League 20 years ago, and all those teams were in the Premier League. And then
well, I mean, Southampton, I think they went back to back, went up to the Prem after that, didn't they?
Yeah. When you were in France, did you find that it was like language barriers and stuff like that stopped you from getting games, or was it literally just that manager's attitude towards the transfer?
Well, when I went there, the team was settled. I think they were 5th in the league. They were on a good run of form, so they didn't have any injuries. I think they had about 4 or 5 centre mids as it was. But I do sympathise with foreign players coming over or going into a new club, not being able to speak the language, because it was tough. It was really difficult. It's I mean, I didn't really develop connections with the players until I actually had a night out with them. I'm not a drinker, but I went out and had a few drinks and that, and then from that moment, I think everyone kind of started speaking English to me, whereas for 3 weeks, no one said a word in English, and I was trying to learn French and communicate, but it just weren't happening. I had a night out with them, and then everyone started speaking English. It was strange.
Did they accept you?
Yeah, it was like,
normal,
okay.
accept him.
Yeah, he's it was quite strange, but obviously when you feel part of a team, that does help on the football pitch. It's difficult, that transition. It must be so difficult for foreign players going into foreign countries doing it.
People forget that playing in a football team is the same as having any other job, in that you need to kind of have that bonding session with your new colleagues or your new teammates before you can actually really get along with them, I guess.
Yeah, I think a lot of teams in pre-season, they do like a team bonding session, whether it's like raft building, paintballing or something, because the value of having that connection with your teammates is big.
Did they not get you to do any sort of initiation song?
No, they didn't. All my English loans, it's been a song, standing there with a spoon, embarrassing myself. But out there, I don't think they cared. I don't think they cared enough.
What's your song of choice for your initiation?
I've done some silly ones. I've done R. Kelly. I believe I can fly.
How does that one go? I don't know.
Yeah. I'm sure you know that one, Smithy. But the last 2 ones I've done was Only Fools and Horses theme song.
I love that.
Yeah,
you know Only Fools and Horses?
Yeah. You
Love
can't
Only
go
Fools
wrong
and
with
Horses.
that. So you don't really have to sing either. It's more of like a talking
Steve
kind
Sidwell
of.
loves that as well.
Does
he
he?
did that as an initiation somewhere. Yeah. How did that go down when you did that?
Yeah, they liked it. I mean, they little ripple, few little laughs, and it got accepted.
Were you a decent athletics as well as a kid?
Yeah,
District
I've
champion?
done hurdles. I was a hurdles champion.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
What district, county?
Yeah, district.
Was it ever?
Yeah.
You ever good enough to think you can
No.
carve a career out of it? Or
No.
football was always the one that.
Yeah, it was always football. I mean, I wasn't. The only reason I won it was because of my technique. I mean, if
really?
I was to have a flat-out race with all the people I was competing with, I wouldn't have won. But with hurdles, it was always about technique and getting your stride pattern.
Yeah.
And I had that down to a T, and I always used to win. So yeah, it was purely technique, really.
Right, Pete. We need to talk Spurs now. Because you were. How long were you at Spurs for? From
18 years.
18 years. So you
Yeah.
must have seen some incredible changes.
Mm.
You made your debut. Am I right in thinking UEFA Cup match? You came off of David Bentley. Is that right?
Yeah, out in Holland against NEC in the Margan at 17.
Which is brilliant because he's our next guest on the podcast.
Oh, is
So
he?
have you
Yeah,
got any
Bent.
stories? I mean,
I've got plenty of stories that can't be shared on here.
We get that a lot, don't we? Yeah.
Bence is what a guy, character, what a guy to have around the training ground. He's, I'm sure he's going to tell you some stories next week. I'm not going to be the one to expose him or any of them.
He enjoyed the sort of light-hearted camaraderie banter sides of things, did he? I'm right in thinking.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably a dying art. He's kind of character in the game because it's very serious nowadays. You can't really mess about and have a laugh. You kind of seen someone not taking it serious, but. I mean, he worked hard. He done all he could. He was professional, but at the same time, he was funny. He was so funny.
He reminds me a lot of Jimmy Bullard.
Yeah,
when
not
you have
too
a conversation
dissimilar.
with
Yeah.
Jimmy, it's just you don't know where you're going with
Yeah.
it in a nice way. So, Pochettino, you've still got a good relationship with Poch, haven't you? What was he like working with? Did you ever think that he'd be as successful as I know Spurs haven't won silverware yet, but he's regarded within the game as an incredible coach, manager. Did you always have that relationship with him?
Yeah, I think so. I think you could see how he developed players from day one. I mean, I played in League. I was at Swindon in League One 6 months before he come in. And he come in and he didn't care that I was playing League One last year. He said, wow, like, you're a Premier League player. Like, get fit, train hard, and you'll play for me. And there's not many managers in Premier League and league football who would see potential like that and also have the balls to develop it really and be patient. I mean, you look at the players he's brung through at Tottenham. I mean, they've got a great youth set up with the managers, John McDermott and all that, but to actually trust players in the Premier League is amazing.
Was that always big for him? Because he's not someone that I can imagine spending hundreds of millions of pounds. The academy and that setup, does he go to academy games? Does he speak to academy? He's very much.
He knows everyone's name.
Does he?
Literally from the canteen women, groundsman. He knows everyone, and it just creates a good feel around the club. I mean, when I was in the youth team, I didn't really see a path into the first team initially.
Why is that?
Because there was managers that didn't want to promote youth. It was more about, I'll go and buy someone. I mean, we had a squad of like 26, 27 at one point, and probably 20 odd of them were internationals at Spurs.
Wow.
And from a youth team player looking at that, it was like, how am I going to get into that? Whereas you look at the squad now at Tottenham, I mean, it's improved this season. Yeah, they've got a lot of players, but if you're a 17, 18-year-old, you can see a path into the first team, and you can feel that around the club because everyone, the young lads, it's refreshing because it's all new.
What was AVB in the Sherwood sort of era like? Was that very much different to how Pochettino manages it? I mean, obviously both good managers and coaches in their own right, but was it? I'm gathering that Poch was more invested in the whole club as a whole, from what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I think AVB, he had a lot of potential. I thought he was very good, but I just think he was a bit inexperienced in terms of man management and stuff like that. He was very young when he got the job. In terms of Tim, like, he was phenomenal at developing young players. Yeah, that reserve team we had with him, I think majority of them have gone on to play Premier League football. Like, we used to go and play against championship teams in pre-season and go and batter them from a reserve team. I thought he'd done a good job at Spurs when he got the manager's job, but he's probably too opinionated at times, which
you think,
probably come as his downfall. But as a player, for me, I love that. I knew I wouldn't cut any corners. He wouldn't lie to me. He was honest, and Tim definitely helped me improve as a player, and probably more so as a person as well. He toughened me up massively.
In what way?
He just, I can't use the word on here, but he taught me to be a on the pitch. I mean, I was always a bit of a nasty.
Yeah.
I would always had a nasty streak in me.
Did you? I didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you'd get by in the game if you weren't didn't have that in you. He just kind of brought it out in me. Like I say, when I was younger, I was so physically behind everyone. I had managers in the past say to me, "Don't tackle," because you'd be putting yourself at risk of getting injury. But when I was under Tim, I was developing into my body, and he was saying, like, you need to go out there and be nasty.
He was like that as a player, actually, Tim, wasn't he? He liked to tackle. He's very physical. And Harry Kane as well, with him, you loan spells with him as well.
Yeah, I was at Millwall with him,
right? Did you ever think he'd be as good as he is now? Because people are talking about him now as the world's best striker. Do you know what I mean? In that position as an out-and-out number 9. His development's been incredible. Did you ever, as 14-year-olds, think this guy's going to be that good?
Well, me personally, I always thought that he would be a top Premier League goal scorer. I knew that from day one of seeing him. I just think it's the time that he's achieved that in is a bit of a surprise. He's done it. He's done it in literally a matter of 18 months, and he's carried it on and just been consistent. And like you say, now he's probably the best striker in the world as a number 9. Thing with Harry, he just wants to be the best at everything. He's got this mentality that I think if you said to him when you retire at 36, 37, what you're going to do, he'd probably think, oh, I'll go and play in a Super Bowl, or I'll go and be a professional golfer, something like that, because he'll put his mind to something and probably achieve it.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if Harry goes and wins a Super Bowl in 15 years or something.
That'd be great, wouldn't it? Sky, imagine that.
Lifting the Ryder Cup.
He does like it in the NFL, doesn't he?
Yeah, he loves it. Loves it. Sits up at like 4 or 5 in the morning and watches games.
League Cup final as well. I was at that game. Do you think we were unlucky in that game?
I
Spurs Chelsea.
thought so. I mean,
you started that game, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I think we got undone by a team that knew how to win, and they score goals at the right time. They scored an early goal. Well, I think it was about 30 minutes, and then they scored right after half time. But if you took their goals out of it, I thought we were the better team. We created more. We had a few chances. I remember Christian Eriksen hitting the bar with a free kick when it was 0-0. We were well on top, and this was coming off the back of beating them 5-3 a few months earlier in the league.
January the 1st or 2nd.
Yeah. We went into that game so full of confidence, and it's just a shame we couldn't win it.
God, Peter, I'm dragging on too much about Spurs here.
So we've had enough Exeter talk already.
Yeah, exactly. You've had your extra quote. Yeah. I was a bit surprised when you left Spurs to Hull. What was the reason behind that? Was it simply just to get first team? Because you were featured in quite a lot of games the 2 seasons before. So it was, as a Spurs fan, it was a little bit of a surprise to me. What were the reasons behind that move?
There was so many different reasons. I mean, I was 25, wanted to play every week. It was difficult. It's hard to explain because it was over 2 years ago now. But one thing I know is that I don't regret it, because at that time I knew it was the right thing for me. I mean, I was, like you say, I featured a lot. I think the season that I left, I played 30 games that season, and I was injured for 15 of them. Yeah. So I was available for 32 games, and I appeared in 30 of them. So the gaffer definitely played me a lot. He put trust in me, and he always said that I'd be part of his squad. But it just hurt playing 10 minutes here and there. It just, as a player at 25, I'd go home over a weekend and I'd be angry. My missus would be like, "Come on, let's go and have some fun." I'd be like, "I don't want to," because I didn't play enough minutes, and I just wanted to play football. That's all I wanted. I mean, it was a decision that was pretty. It come out of nowhere, but at that time it felt right.
And 18 years at club, that must have been, as I say, a tough decision, because it's the only club you've really known.
It was emotional. Like I say, I had a lot of loans where I go and put the badge on for another club, but to actually leave and know that I'm not going to wear it again, it was sad. But I never felt like I truly left the club. I always still felt part of it. I mean, I'd watched the team, and I still feel part of the process now, the transition of the club, the manager, everything, and they've always welcomed me back. Like I say, I'll probably always be part of the club.
Yeah, of course you will. Signed for Hull, club record fee as well. Does that put a little bit more extra pressure on you when you know that you've signed for more money than anyone that's ever been a Hull City player?
Does that?
I
play in your
mean,
mind a bit?
when I actually signed, I remember looking in the mirror like, flipping hell, you've just been signed for this much. That's crazy. But as soon as you get on the pitch, it just goes to the back of your head. I just wanted to do as well as I could. It was a difficult time because the team, we were struggling, and obviously I'm going to a new club. I've been used to dominating games, being in a team that was challenging for the Premier League title, to a team going to Stoke away and sitting back and defending. So that was hard. That was really difficult. That didn't suit me. And then Marco Silva come in and played me. He was like, you're going to be our best player. You're going to do this. And the 3 games I had under him were probably my 3 best games for Hull, because we were playing in a different style of football, which suited me.
What was he like?
He was very, very good. Yeah, I enjoyed my time under him. He was very organised. He got the team organised and everyone knew what to do. And for me as a player, I like that. I like knowing that in a certain phase of play, if the ball's coming to me from the fullback, I can flick it around the corner to a striker or a midfielder who's going to be there. And I think sometimes when you play off the cuff, that can go away a little bit.
Yeah. You played under quite a few managers then over your career, quite a few at Spurs presumably as well. Who was not the best and worst, because I'm not going to put you on the spot with that, but like, who do you feel fitted your style of play and your personality the best?
Oh, Poch.
Yeah.
The gaffer, not Poch, the gaffer.
Yeah.
Sorry, gaffer. Yeah, him. I mean, he developed me into he made me an international player. I played for my country, and if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have done that. I do think that Tim Sherwood was brilliant for me. John McDermott, Alex Inglethorpe, all these players, Chris Ramsey that I had in my youth team. But when you get into that first team football, it's a totally different kettle of fish. And for the gaffer to put his trust in youth, yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. He pushes players quite hard in training as well, doesn't he? Doesn't he send them into gym sessions at 4:00 in the afternoon and double training?
Yeah, I think his whole mindset is not just training physically, because of course his training is so intense, everyone knows that. It's to train the brain as well and train yourself mentally, because football isn't just about tactically and technically. It's very stressful when you're playing for a top team who's expected to win every week, and that demand is stressful. So the training is also based around stressing your brain, so a game day is easier.
Is he a good arm around the shoulder type manager as well?
Yeah, he's great. He's the best. I mean, you love playing for him. You'd run through a brick wall for him, because he's a lovely man. He's a lovely human being. Don't get me wrong, I would never, ever cross him. I would never cross him, Jesus, Mickey, Tony, never, because I think his morals and his values are so strong that if you went away from that, it'd be hard for him to forget it.
Right.
But at the same time, if you work hard, if you do it right, and if you enjoy football, then it's unbelievable, yeah.
I'd always put him in with sort of a Mourinho and Pep type figure of quite a unique manager. There isn't really any other managers that have that kind of personality.
And that respect as well. From the,
Yeah,
you
I
never
mean,
hear anyone say his manager's not great or anything.
No.
Or it's just the way he conducts himself.
Yeah,
Just
I mean,
seems
I
classy.
love him as a human being,
Do you?
not
Yeah.
just as a gaffer, but I've got so much respect for him, and I mean all the coaching staff, Mickey, Tony and Jesus, but as a human being, he's amazing. And probably the biggest thing I can say about him is he didn't just improve me as a player, he improved me as a human being.
Really?
As well, yeah.
How did he do that?
He just changed my view on life. I mean, his value. I still got values in that. He's a big family man, and creating friendships, loyalty, stuff like that. And also when I say change my way of life, that training of stressing your brain, I believe it's helped me in recovering from my injury, because it could go one way or the other. You could start feeling sorry for yourself and that. But where I had that experience of being so strong mentally with him, I feel like it's completely changed my outlook on life.
Wow, incredible. That's some praise. And you said he's a big factor in you getting your England cap. What was that like, putting on that England shirt, coming on against Italy as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Represent. I mean, that must be one of the moments you dream of as a kid.
Yeah, I
Playing for
mean,
country.
I'll be honest. My dream as a kid was to play for Tottenham at White Hart Lane.
Was it?
I didn't look too far ahead of England, because you kind of think if you're playing for Tottenham, then you'd like to think that England would come eventually. But I spent so long wanting the Tottenham thing that when it come, I think I might have started about 15, 16 games on the bounce for Tottenham, and then I got the call for England. I was like, wow, this has just come so quick. I felt ready for it. Like I said, I come on against Italy. I set up Andros.
Yeah, got the system,
and there's a little photo where it's me Andros, Harry, and Kyle Walker
remember it,
all
yeah.
celebrating, and that's just bizarre because me, Harry, and Andros come through the system. We played together for like years and years, and to have that moment together for our country was
Have you spoken about that photo?
incredible. What a photo!
So
It's
one of
amazing. It's funny because my first goal for Tottenham was against Nottingham Forest in the Capital One Cup, and I ran off celebrating, and Andros and Harry were both there, the first two.
Yeah.
So it's just weird. My favourite photo is the Tottenham one.
Yeah.
And then I've also got the England one with them two in it as well. So it's
Just know where the cameras are.
it's just mental.
Oh, Hodgson, what was he like?
I liked him.
Yeah.
I thought very organised, good manager. I think he's probably more suited to a team that doesn't have as much expectations as a top club.
Okay.
Because he can organise a team, and his main thing is to be organised, counter-attack, set pieces and that. And when you're a top team or in England, more is expected of you. But yeah, there's no doubt in that he's a very good manager.
Was obviously we touched earlier upon the fact that your retirement has been made for you at a young age. Was that a big thing for you that you had that England cap? So you can look back, you achieved your dream of playing for Spurs, captaining Tottenham as well, and making that cap for England. So almost there's nothing that you didn't fulfil as a kid, growing up and dreaming.
Yeah, in terms of boxes that I wanted to tick, I ticked every box. I mean, obviously I'd liked it to have been for another 10 years.
Yeah, of course.
But that wasn't the case. But yeah, like you say, I played for Tottenham. I captained the club in a big European tie. I've scored at White Hart Lane. I played for England. Those are the things as a kid. If you would have said you would have achieved these in your career, I'd have bitten their arm off. So I can retire content knowing that I've done all those.
And when you had the injury, did you know at the time this is something serious, or do you struggle to recollect that day? I mean, what are your memories looking back on it?
I mean, I wrote a diary from literally as soon as I could start writing. I wrote a diary from everything I was feeling for the last 14 months.
Wow.
And it's crazy looking back because there was times where I couldn't even walk. I mean, I after I think 4 weeks, me and my missus went for a walk around our house, which took no longer than a minute. And I got in and I was shattered. I had to sleep it off for about 2 days because physically, I think my whole body was just going into recovering the brain and the skull. There was so many processes that had to be made. It was literally learning how to walk, talk, and all these things again. So I wasn't thinking about football for so long. Like if you'd have asked me a month, 2 months after playing football, do you want to play football again? I'd have said no chance.
Really?
I couldn't even imagine jogging down the street again. So as your body gets better, then you start setting goals and imagining things again. So it was just a long process. There was so many things. It was exhausting, to be fair.
So physically and mentally.
Yeah,
training,
I mean, I had to go into London twice a week for tests, scans, see specialists, and this didn't just go on for a matter of weeks. This went on for months and months. I mean, my balance was off, so I had to go and see specialists every week and get new exercises, and I had to shake my head, and there was so much to it. It was crazy. Looking back on it now, it was just like it was some difficult journey, but I think as a professional footballer, you're used to dedicating yourself and overcoming challenges, and that probably held me in good stead.
I've got to say, you seem, from all the media that you've done a lot of media, incredibly upbeat and positive attitude when we hear about the in-depth and what you've gone through. Is that because you look at it as, well, it could have been a lot worse, rather than my football career's over?
I look at the Fiorentina defender who passed away recently, and I mean, I played against him a couple of years ago, and that could have been me. I was a matter of 20 minutes away from passing away. So my whole mindset has been positive because I'm alive. I've got a child now. I've got a fiance.
Yeah, congratulations, father.
Yeah, thank you. Got a wonderful family. So, listen, football was my dream to play, but at the end of the day, I'm healthy, and I understand the things in life that are really important are the experiences you have with your family, your friends, and I'm in a good place.
And Petr Cech was a huge influence for you, wasn't he? And did that help? Because obviously he's been through something very similar, that you could ask him questions that perhaps you couldn't ask other people. Yeah,
I mean, he went through something quite similar. I mean, he was back playing in 3 months, which is crazy. But the initial couple of weeks, what we went through were similar. When you have a brain injury and a bleed on the brain, the things of not being able to hold a conversation for longer than 10 seconds or the light, any noise, everything is heightened. Your senses are heightened, and he come round and just explained that it would get better in time and reassured us. And what a man, yeah, what a gentleman, what a human being. He's a top man.
And it wasn't just him, the whole football community. This is where football is great. It gets adverse press for right and wrong reasons sometimes, but the reaction to your injury and from people, not even teammates, people outside of the football world was incredible. Did that mean a lot to you when you've seen that coming through?
Amazing. I think it's actually impossible for me to thank everyone. But when I had my injury, when I was coming round and I was laying in the bed, I couldn't talk, but I mean, there was times where my dad, my mum, my fiance Rachel, they would read out messages that, I mean, Hector Bellerin, Peter Cech, all these players from clubs that are deemed as rivals would message, and even just your neutral football fan, a Liverpool fan, a United fan, they literally we spent months of just reading them out to me, and that had a big impact. I mean, to have that support, it definitely had a positive impact on me.
Good to hear. So what's the future for Ryan Mason then? Is it you're doing a lot of media, very good at it as well, coaching, where do you sort of see your future?
Yeah,
lying?
I mean, I'm so young, I'm 26. I mean, I've just come out the game. I'm not going to commit to something fully because I can't. I don't know what I want to do. All I know is I do want to do my badges and I want to see where I go with that. I mean, I don't know whether I'd want to stick with youth team and help bring players from the youth team into first team, or I mean, I might get the bug and think, I want to be a manager and then start setting goals. But right now it's too early to say where I'm going to go with it all. But what I do know is that hopefully soon I will start my badges and crack on, yeah.
Well, you speak very highly of Pochettino. He also speaks highly of you. He said that you have a great football brain and will make a great coach. Have you spoken to him about coaching roles at Spurs? Or
yeah, I mean, before I retired, I went into the training ground 2 days before and just told him that I was going to retire. Because,
did you?
Yeah, because I just think there was probably a list of about 20 people that I thought were important to tell before it got out in the press. And thankfully, Hull gave me the opportunity to do all that. And he said, he was happy. He was happy that I weren't putting myself at risk. And he just said, yeah, we've lost a footballer, but I'm sure we're going to gain a great coach. Bit of a tongue twister there. So yeah, he's offered his help. I live around the corner from the training ground, so hopefully I'll be sneaking in there as much as possible.
Mate, it's good to hear. On that note, because we're in a meeting room, and I think the next meeting is about to commence.
They can wait.
So yeah, we've got Ryan Mason sat in the chair.
They're doing a job interview in here next.
Yeah, they're doing a job interview.
right.
Yeah.
And you're dressed for a job interview.
Yeah.
Also, can I say, you can tell which one is receiving the interview because she looks quite nervous, and which one is giving the interview because she's looking at us saying, "Can you hurry up?" Because I'm about to do an
She's
interview.
looking at all the recording equipment and thinking, "Are they recording this show?"
Yeah.
Before we go, we asked all of our guests this. If you could go back to day one, the day you're signing your first professional contract, and give one little bit of advice to yourself as that 17, 18-year-old, what would be the one thing you could say to yourself back then?
Just enjoy the journey. Enjoy it, yeah, enjoy it. Because I think if you don't go out into the football pitch with a smile on your face, then you've got no chance.
Thank you for giving up your time.
Thanks for having
Sitting
me.
down with
Enjoyed
us.
it. Yeah,
Top
it's a shame that no one can see me in my suit.
No, we'll have to get a photo.
We'll do a photo.
We'll get a photo.
Oh, right.
Top man.